Yo, and we're back. Just in time. Let's see a C skip happen. I think that'd make this pretty interesting. I don't know if Stellar will try for it. For a fact, Jazz is going to be trying. Like, that's... There's no real question about that. Jazz is, I think Jazz, at this point, could probably do a C skip attempt. That'd be just as fast as Stellar's skipless without an attempt. So there's no reason for... Usually, like, it's fine to go for a C skip attempt because, of course, if you get it, it saves so much time. And if you don't get it, it wastes only, like, 1 second. So see, Jazz is just barely behind after that. And is now... And now they're, like, completely even. So... Yeah. I think it's probably going to end up... The biggest separation point is definitely going to be with the Knuckles. Jazz is pretty good at Knuckles. Stellar, of course, newer player, learning pieces now, so it's probably going to be, especially on the later stages, it'll probably be where Jazz takes a really big lead. And of course, when we get to like the last space stages, Jazz is going to be doing lots of big skips. We just saw her go for CGSS in the last race, and though it took a couple tries, it was still faster than like a normal skipples attempt, so... Yeah, both these runners, again, on like extremely close pace. They just crossed the hill at the same time. Jazz is taking these hills a little bit better. Jazz knows how to like keep the speed as you go over the hills. She's storing her speed better with the spin dashes, where Stellar isn't quite doing the same thing. But Stellar's not that far behind. Jazz with a 2:08. I don't think that was quite the time she was aiming for, but I think that's still pretty good, considering with the C skip attempt.
This game of tag is boring. I'm out of here. Finally decided to show up, eh? Okay, bring it on.
Jazz is definitely going to be going for some front box strats here, but Stellar, I don't feel it. I'm thinking maybe a no. I haven't watched enough Stellar though to know though. So, oh yeah, okay. See, we got the reads. We understand. Definitely going for the back is nice and comfy because you don't have to worry about messing up, like, you know, if you don't, because you have to homing attack up to the front, and then if you don't jump onto the box too fast, it can be really weird. Ooh, Jazz the free piece. A tiny bit of an issue grabbing it though, but doesn't waste too much time. Between the stone statues is a kind of common free piece, and pretty good. That second piece, though, that she just grabbed is not very good. And under the elbow, this is a wonky piece. That's an extremely rare piece to get. It's actually kind of hard to grab. You have to punch into it. And Stellar ending not too much slower. He had kind of a weird layout too.
Yeah,
So
this is perfect.
hopefully no one messes up Eggman 1. If you're messing up Eggman 1, then it's just kind of like... You're having a rough day. We all have those days sometimes where we mess up. Hopefully this isn't a day for either of these runners. They're pretty solid for both of them. No issues. Let's see how Jazz handles Prison Lane. Jazz is a pretty good Tails and mech player in general. She has, I guess, the current story style record for Sand Ocean. She has lots of experience just moving the character around. But I don't think she's done a ton of Prison Lane practice. She's done a lot of Hidden Base and a lot of Eternal Engine for sure. But I don't think she's spent as much time on Prison Lane. Let's see if Stellar can also grab this first gate hop, and he is successful. No issues here. Hitting the elevator at 43, that's alright. Elevator is like a really good point to check your timing, because it's like a good 5 or 6 seconds where you don't have to do anything. An extremely good elevator time, you would see like a 37 or a 36. But his time is like right around average, so it's good pace. Jazz getting a lot of the shots through the walls there. Managing to get a 128 going through the last checkpoint, and barely making that gate hop. I got a little worried for a second. Walking back a little far there. She didn't have to walk that far back to keep the speed up, but it's okay. Just lost a tiny bit of time with that. And ending with a 142, not bad. That's about the time that you'd aim for. Stellar missing the second gate hop. Keep in mind, the second gate hop's really weird because the camera changes drastically when you step into the room. So it's kind of hard to get used to. If you want to get used to it, sometimes it's useful to actually destroy the enemies later and just slam Tails' face into the gate so that you're like, the camera will change and you're ready to hop on it whenever. Jazz getting a 20 upgrade there. Pretty good. Sub 21 is like, I think a lot of runners will take 21 as like a standard for what they want on average. Like around the mid-level, around the mid-high. So getting anything under that's alright. Stellar, in contrast, taking a tiny bit more time doing this beginning part just to be extra safe. You can have some weird homing attack shenanigans, so we saw he actually went and homing attacked an earlier enemy. Oh! That's a really, really scary mistake to make. It loses lots of time because, of course, you have to wait for the missile to respawn at the start. It's a really easy mistake to make, too, because if you turn Sonic's angle too much while you're in midair, you lose almost all of your speed. So that's like a no-no whenever that happens. And it's a little bit easier of a mistake to make than you think. Ooh, Stellar barely missing the spring. Going for it again. Manages to hit it. Thank the Lord. Didn't want to see two mistakes like that happen there. 129.50 from Jazz. Again, it's like right around the average part. I'd say a lot of mid-level runners are like, you know, 130 is like what you want to be getting. Stellar, a little bit of trouble with that loop skip. There's that there's like the little barrier there, and he had trouble getting around it. That's rough. Yeah, if you miss the missile, you end up dying. It's a pretty slow death, too. So, it's not something you want to happen. It's almost worth just, like, dying. Like, you know, going ahead and killing yourself if you can't make it to the missile. It'll actually probably save a tiny bit more time. Stellar going for the loop skip again and missing it! Ah, he did a short hop there, so he didn't have a lot of height, and he jumped near the top, so the jump actually kind of launched him backward. Sonic is really, really. I mean, all these characters are really physics, like they're really physics based. So since he was going backwards on the loop when he jumped, it got carried like kind of down and away. Wait, is Jazz starting up Green Forest? This whole beginning is kind of scary. There's lots of potential for the game to just kind of screw you. Stellar making a third try. Okay. That was really rough for Stellar. We can't sugarcoat that. I'm glad he ended up getting... Jazz! With getting beamed on Green Forest. Lots of these surfaces, if you move too fast, it'll actually launch you off. So that was a weird scenario with that. You don't see that one very often though, with the half pipe. Okay. Jazz is going for the loop skip, but not the full loop skip. There's a full one where you just throw yourself right into the hole here. But with how that setup was, it makes sense that she didn't go for it. She wouldn't have had enough height to make it. Stellar going in for the sick Shadow 1. 2 hits. 3? There we go. Jazz getting a wall run setup, but a little too low, and it's a weird thing. If you go too low, sometimes you stay on, sometimes it just throws you off like that. And you know what? It's actually completely out of your control. Sometimes the game is nice, sometimes it's not. The way that it handles like your loop speed and sticking to walls is it's basically pseudo-random. It's based off like sub-pixel precision, essentially. So unfortunately because of that, that was actually slower than a wall runless attempt. Which, again, that wasn't really her fault. So, you know, even though she did okay for the most part, it's just a little rough. Stellar going a little bit slower through the beginning, but as long as he doesn't die, is going to be faster than Jazz. Ooh. Okay, no loop skip. No loop skip. Okay. Again, that was a weird setup. If you went for loop skip, that would have been really ballsy. Okay. Jazz starting at Pumpkin Hill. Kind of rough. Knuckle stage. Not really a lot of free pieces you can get. Like King of the Hill, or not King of the Hill. Twin Skulls or Cold Iron Bars. That's pretty much the only things you can really hope for. But outside of that, and also the pieces can be really far away from each other. But this is a pretty average layout. This is going to be like a 37. Yeah. That's a good layout. A little above average. Stellar climbing the tree. Gonna be going for this bungee skip again, like we saw Jazz go for. Hopefully he will... Okay. I didn't see. It looked almost like he homing attack canceled there. If you homing attack cancel, then you'll stop homing onto the thing you're homing attacking. That should be kind of like understood just based on the name, but like a lot of times you'll just auto start trying to homing attack cancel stuff because you go a little further if you do it. But you have to be careful, especially if you actually need to homing attack onto something. Jazz going in for the biggest thing in this stage, the weight hop, and manages to make it. I wish you guys could see my face right now. This is like a Greek tragedy or something. Man, that's really rough. This ending, I guess he was trying to like, if you don't light dash on that set of rings, which again is also surprisingly hard to do,
Yes!
then everything can just like get out of control trying to hit that spring.
Barely made it.
Jazz taking a couple hits, probably will not be making a 0 cycle, but she will be making a really, really comfy first cycle, even a half cycle right here. The half cycle being barely faster than a first cycle. Really situational, but definitely worth recognizing when you can hit these cycles. Let's see if Stellar's RNG here can match Jazz's. First piece on the Ghost Train at the bottom. But again, this is where your Knuckles knowledge becomes really important, because he's not going the right way for this. Jazz having a tiny bit of trouble with that car there, but the hitboxes on the cars are also very wonky, and lots of times he'll just shoot through them. Ending with a 216, typical time for like the one cycle. It's like a typical one cycle time, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good for a race. Stellar making his way to the first piece. He sees the radar ping, and now he's got to like deduce off of that where it's going to be. It's closer, guys. Grabs the hints, maybe by accident while he was trying to punch. It's just a tiny bit higher up. There he sees it. Now we see Jazz on actually the next Knuckles stage. Does not like on the Steel Skull Beam, or Steel Ghost Beam. That's actually going to be in the Ghost Room. And Ghost Room first pieces can sometimes lead to really, really bad layouts. Checking for a lot of free pieces there. Gets second piece Ghosts. Oh, this is actually at the top. And this is one of the things that really, really sucks about Aquatic Mine. There are so many piece checks that you do in the top here, and there are some things that are just like, you know, you don't check for, and they're really, really hard to recognize. And when you get those pieces, you know, you can't really do anything about it. But Jazz still finishing with a relatively strong 45 with that layout. For 44, as Stellar finishes his Knuckles stage with 213. He seemed to handle himself a lot better after the first piece. It was really just that first one that threw him off guard. And without that, it probably would have been a much better time. He spent about a minute trying to go for that single piece. So Jazz is going into a pretty neat stage. She's going to be drifting back and forth. Let's see how she does with all the lap times. That's how we can judge what sort of pace she's on. She's going to be saving this boost for the bottom there. The right thing to do. Boosting at the bottom there will actually save a lot of time. 38.91, keeping in mind that she didn't have the start boost that you get on the first playthrough of the stage, because she just ran a race before. So 38.91 is pretty good. Stellar missing the weight cycle, so he's actually going to be behind by quite a bit. It looks like this pace is going to be second cycle pace. Kinda rough. But Mission Street's a hard stage to get used to. It's very regular, but it's like kinda tight. if that makes sense. It's a lot of the stuff with this game. Some of the stages have really hard execution, but a lot of the stages don't have hard execution, but it's just like long bouts of like, you gotta be playing decent, and that's what makes it hard. There are lots of areas that you can just mess up and lose a lot of speed, or like... Stellar's going to be taking this front cycle, and is actually going to clear it. That looked like a 1.5, I guess. So not as bad as the second cycle. Jazz almost hitting the car at the end of Route 101. That would have been devastating. That loses a lot of time. But yeah, pretty good. Pretty good Route 101 on Jazz's part. As Stellar's going in and finishing his side with a, it's gonna be like a 230. 230 on the dot. Little over 230. Considering what happened at the beginning there, that's not too bad. It happens.
Gotta do better next time.
He says it was a gold. Pretty high. Alright, we got Jazz going into the technical gauntlet of SA2. Let's see what sort of skip she decides to go for here. There's lots of different options, and she's going for the optimal one. And she hits it, like, dead on. Hopefully she has enough height. And she has tons of height. Okay. She just saved a ton of time by doing that. That trick is pretty tight to do. It's a frame perfect unpause. You actually have to pause hover for that. You can't get it with just a normal hover. And she's hitting all the right marks here. She's going to be getting a 50 checkpoint here. That's extremely good. This is like... This was amazing pace. It's still really good pace. She'll still end with like a 145 probably, barring no other issues. Stellar getting a bottom room third piece. There's a clip out you can do for this piece. Jazz is fumbling a little bit on the maze. That's unfortunate. Jazz has lost about like 5 or 6 seconds since that one checkpoint.
Yeah, this is perfect.
The beginning, it was extremely strong though. You gotta give props to that. Yeah, Stellar with a little bit of rough RNG there.
The president must be over there. Let's go.
And Jazz is going to be cleaning this up with a 151. That's alright. 151's okay. But, especially after like the beginning, how ambitious she was, she's probably just a little bit off put that it didn't end up being like picture perfect. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still a pretty good time. That's probably above average. Now we got Technical Sonic Stage Pyramid Cave. We're going to be seeing the bounce bracelet come in. I don't know if I have to explain this to you guys again. Press a 1 in the chat if you want me to explain it. If you're tired of me and others explaining this trick, then I will just keep talking about the stage and about Jazz as a runner. We'll see how the first door skip goes. Oh yeah, she does like a little bounce there. It's a tiny bit faster than hitting the spring. Okay, I see some 1s. 2. Okay. Alright, so how it works, guys, is if you bounce right before you hit a wall and you're going really fast, then you'll actually turn your horizontal speed into vertical speed. So you can use that to get really, really crazy height. And it works the same way if you bounce into a wall while going down, you'll also go down really fast. And now we're seeing the second usage of the bounce bracelet, and that's to fly sideways across the stage. Note that you can't fly upwards with that. If the game realizes that you're flying up, it'll realize something's up, and it'll stop you. But you can fly sideways for a very long time. It's basically until you lose too much speed. And Jazz getting a 135. That's actually really good. 135, especially in a race setting, especially in just in a hero story setting in general. It looks like stllr hitting a car at the last little straightaway. Again, that loses a lot of time, especially if you've already used your boost. Jazz getting a green room piece, eyes bugged out. Not going to reset. She's going to attempt for the death strat, I assume. The death strat being she's going to try to spawn in a better piece for her second piece. Because usually green room pieces don't give you very good layouts. And it works. She gets booty. There we go. Gonna clip back there. Making very sure not to break the box. But she doesn't need it. She gets a pretty good layout. She gets a pretty good layout. This is gonna be in the core. Top runners would take this layout any day of the week. Both runners have had their fair share of issues. Jazz has been tightening up a bit. Her desert's been extremely strong as a whole. But yeah, they had some issues on Metal Harbor and Green Forest, but stllr's bringing it back. This has been a pretty good hidden base so far. Not going for any of the out-of-the-way skips, but just opting to go through the stage normally. Going for the deathless option. As Jazz goes in, preparing for the 4 cycle. Or for the 1 cycle. You need to get 4 hits in this 1 cycle. Looks like her angle's good. She's waiting a tiny bit to get these hits. Just being extra careful that she's not going to accidentally hit too early. stllr, yeah, not even going to be opting to go out of bounds here. Going to be playing it normally, playing it safe. Again, keeping in mind that stllr is a newer runner. Just recently putting a lot of time into the game. Jazz showing off her experience, though, with her pretty solid lead here. 2 stages ahead, 2 bosses ahead, or 1 boss ahead. In the middle of the second boss, and she's gotten 3 super bounces, which is probably the hardest part about Egg Golem. Egg Golem is an extremely punishing boss. Oh, but she tries to go for a greed bounce there instead of going on the back, and because Jazz was behind Egg Golem decides to do the little spin move, the ballerina. So that wastes a lot of time. And now this time is actually a little slower than if you did it without doing the super bounces. A good super bounces time, you can get close to a 50. Average about 55. But she gets like a 57. It's really rough when that happens. Egg Golem, most top runners would consider Egg Golem probably the worst thing about Hero Story. It's an easy run killer. stllr's going to be getting his own bounce bracelet. If he messes this up again, oh, he gets it pretty clean. Second try. We're seeing Jazz is a pretty good Eternal Engine player. Jazz has she grinded out this aisle a lot in the past, and she has video of her getting really good times on this. And she's labbed the stage out a lot. You're gonna see she's actually doing little hops before all these doors to make sure that her speed is just right and she doesn't go too fast to bonk. Stellar taking a few tries to get through that door, manages to make it. That's not a really hard trick to get there, but it is very precise. So messing it up one time, which, you know, it's not uncommon to mess it up, and it can really put you on tilt. Jazz turning around too early out of bounds. You can actually turn around too early there, and you'll like barely clip a gill plane. I guess it's just the edge of the acid or something. But yeah, you don't do that. When you get out of bounds, you're gonna want a neutral stick for a second. If you pull back too early, that'll happen. But she gets out again, no issues. And she's gonna be wrapping up the stage in about 30 seconds. As Stellar is wrapping up his stage right now.
Yes!
228. It's pretty good. That's better than I thought. That's better than I thought he'd get, actually.
No problem.
But as we've already seen, Jazz showed like the potential of what higher level runners are able to do with that stage. So Death Chamber, this is where the boys turn to men, right? This is like Death Chamber, agreed by pretty much everyone to be the hardest of the Knuckle stages to learn. Jazz getting a really good layout on her try. This is a pretty good first piece to potentially get. So we'll see what follows up. Huge black wall, gonna be towards red blue. It seems like he knows exactly where this is. It's a pretty good feeling. And we also have to keep track of what Jazz is doing right now. First piece is okay. Under a star's not down there. And she realizes, okay, she realizes. Under a star is actually up. Oh. Stellar accidentally hits Omo Chow. But it was just a manip, guys. He was pranking us the whole time. He gets the speed shoes. That's pretty hype. This wasn't a particularly good layout for Jazz. Middle, top, bottom.
It's closer.
Not really what you want to see. Stellar ending with a 134. Definitely above average in his time bracket.
Yeah, this is perfect.
He ended up... I'm glad he ended up knowing where all his pieces were. Because we've seen a few runs, like during the tournament, where people don't know where their stuff is. And it's always like...
Who's there?
You know, you're watching from the outside and you're like...
What the...
It's hard to learn this stuff. We were all in this position. Jazz going ahead, handling Rouge pretty typically. 1557. Times don't really vary too much on Rouge if you've got the strat down, which is basically to deliver the handstands of justice. That's what we call it. It's a pretty good name for just pressing A and B over and over again. I don't think a lot of speed games have that sort of thing, where they have pretty epic names like that. Oh, Stellar going in a little bit too early on the second hit. he's not gonna be able to clear this out. Is he gonna reset? Or is he gonna just... He's gonna play it out. He's gonna play it out. It would have been faster to reset, actually. But I guess he's gonna place it on the odds that once the cycle's over, he only has to get 2 hits instead of getting 4 in a row. Jazz making it out of bounds. First try. And I see some sunglasses in the chat, which probably means the best happened. First try. That's a very scary trick to go for. Extremely chokeable. And it's pretty impressive to get it first try. We haven't seen a lot of first tries this tournament with that. Stellar going in for the last hit. It sucks that he wasn't able to get Boom Boo in a single cycle, but
What a hassle.
he cleans it out with some dignity. Jazz is really extending this lead a ton. As she goes for a pretty much perfect Eggman. It doesn't get much better than a sub 15 for Eggman 2. Stellar's waiting for the back little rocks to come out, but he actually gets on too fast, and so the second platform doesn't come out. You have to wait a second. Again, talking about how Egg Golem is straight up run killer at all levels. And he has to wait for the ballerina to happen now. And he's not going for super bounces, so he can't deal any damage during this. Jazz hitting the kill plane on FR skip. No! FR skip is... Messing up FR skip is like... It's extremely rough. Because it ends up being... You wasted 40 seconds just trying to go for it. And there's not much else you can really say about it. It's a scary looking trick. It's a scary trick, especially when you're on good pace. Because, again, it's not like really hard to execute, but it's like, you know, you don't feel safe. Any small mistake will just get punished really hard.
Nice try, Rocky.
Stellar finishing with a 151. Not very good. He had a rough time with the ballerinas. But he's gonna be heading in strong to this stage. He's recently picked up Eternal Engine Skip, so I'm ready to see him hit that first try. Jazz closing in on the end. No issues. It gets a little scary. There's an invisible wall there if you're a little too low, and she ended up hitting it, but it did not push her out of the way. So she clears the stage just fine. Second try again makes it like a little worse, of course, but her second attempt at the trick went pretty well. And she's going to the final boss. I don't imagine... I said this at the beginning of the race. Expected Jazz to win. And hopefully she doesn't prove me wrong right now. I love Stiller and all, but Jazz is at the very end of the game. Jazz has this in the bag. Stellar hitting that checkpoint with a 114. He might be a tiny bit slow for the second cycle. Yeah, just a little short on the second cycle. Gonna have to wait for the third cycle. And Jazz ending with a 35 Shadow 2. you can see her in the chat saying Shadow is mean. Not exactly a great time for Shadow 2. You can beat Shadow 2 in about... You're going to want to get like about 16 or 17 seconds. But, again, Shadow is like another boss that's very chokeable. If you hit a little too early or a little too late, you'll miss the hit. It'll mess up your rhythm. Sonic will like fly at a weird angle. Anyways, Stellar's going to be closing in on the end of his stage. Let's see what happens. Nice, clean entry into the goal ring. This is really good. I think Stellar's on pretty good pace. His text is red, but I don't know if that's his font or if that means he's behind right now. But based on what I know his PB is, he could probably PB still. Unless he got another PB that's like extremely good and I missed it. But yeah. Let's talk about Jazz's time. A 39.47. Extremely strong for a run. Extremely strong for a race. Anything sub 40 is like, you know, that it's like pull out the okay hand emojis. Just like, it's good. If you can rock a sub 40 and be able to hit that during a race, then that's extremely good. Stellar having a tiny bit of trouble grabbing this piece, which it's unfortunate because he ended up breaking the meteorite, but not getting it. And he gets the worst piece in the stage. He better know where this is. This is a piece that everyone should know. He knows where he needs to go, but he didn't hit the spring to take him up there, which I'm a little bit confused by. But yeah, Stellar making his way to the top. There's nothing you can really do about this. If you get floating stone above a moon, you're just instantly having a not good meteor herd. There's almost no way that you can... I mean, there's no real way that you can make it a really good layout. And now he's looking for a hint. He should be going down to grab a hint. There's nothing up there. We can see Jazz on the other side, sandwalking. She's strutting her stuff. Jazz is currently the best story style Sand Ocean player. And showing off a neat little trick that you can do. I believe it's frame perfect.
It's closer.
Jazz, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you're listening, but
I found it.
yeah, takes a little hit there. So she's not happy right now. She has incredibly high standards for the stage. Higher than normal.
Yeah,
Higher than any other person should have. Realistically. But she has the guts to keep going for it. Stellar ending with a 212. Not a... The big issue there was mainly execution, but his pieces were not good at all either. So that was extremely... That was rough. Like, you can't... If you get that in a run, it's like a kind of a rip run moment. There isn't really anything you can do. Stellar cleaning it up with the handstands. With the 17. Pretty good. The big thing is to get that boss under 20 seconds. If you are slower than that, then you are actually going to have to fight as the arena opens up. And then it becomes very hard to actually find Rouge. Thankfully, it's not too hard to beat Rouge in under that time. Stellar does not go for any tricks on Crazy Gadget, so we're going to be seeing skipless CG. See, okay, he was just making sure he had the jump. I thought for a second he was going to hit the checkpoint. Skipless CG being one of the coolest stages in the game. Definitely an interesting IL to watch high-level runners play. And if you want to get really crazy at like learning how to bounce excel and like getting used to killing enemies fast and like preserving your speed, more than any other Sonic stage, I would suggest maybe learning this. All the other stages will like teach you general Sonic movement, but this one, since you have to wait around all the doors and like preserve your speed, this is a really good stage to practice killing enemies and then bounce excelling to like get on the ground as soon as possible. Bounce excelling being bouncing into the ground and zombie attacking. It's the fastest way to get up to like a decent speed. And then after you do that, you usually start chaining some dashes to preserve your high speed. Stellar making the corner, a little bit oopsie there. He's probably going to be ending the stage with maybe like a 240 or something, barring no issues on the puzzle. He's going to be breaking the glass right here. See, like, bounce excels on this part are extremely important in order to make sure you get through really fast as the door opens. That's not something you usually see until you get to like a very high level though. Lots of these runners will know what a bounce excel is, but you know, sometimes it takes a while for people to recognize the applications of it. That's like that's not something I picked up on until way after I got to sub 40.
Oh, yes!
That was unorthodox. You can actually just walk off of that into the goal ring, but he jumps off and bounces, which is horribly risky. I'm glad he didn't die there. Okay. Stellar going in for the next boss. Let's see how he handles this compared to how Jazz handled it. Where Jazz hit like the textbook Eggman 2. He gets a punch. And he hits, I guess he hit the center. This boss is very rough. The laser, a lot of runners when they start out have trouble dodging the laser. You have to make sure you keep going in one direction. If you turn around, he's gonna hit you. Another option that I'd suggest if you want to like make sure you don't get hit by the laser is to purposely get hit by another one of his attacks. That way you'll be invincible. You'll have the iframes when he tries to hit you with the laser. So Stellar is going to, again, probably a skipless FR? I don't think he does the skip yet. A little slow on the stuff though. But he tries to make the big ballsy move, trying to hit the rail there. Just a little bit off though. Final Rush is a really finicky stage. If you mess up, you're probably dead, because it's just the vast emptiness of like the atmosphere below you. So it's just kind of like, he's gonna keep going, I guess, or not. I wonder what he's doing. Did he hit the checkpoint at the top? He did. Okay. So he's opting for this again. I thought he was going to go for it. I think he was trying to go for it. Maybe he's changed his mind though. I think he just wants to finish the run as is. A really smooth rail transition there. Especially with the free cam from the death. That's pretty tight. Shoutouts to Jazz getting an extremely fast time right now. Keep in mind, she doesn't have the hover. So a 141 is actually ludicrous. Keep in mind, a first cycle sand ocean with no sand walking is like a 155 or something. So she beats that by almost 15 seconds. I think she has like a 135 as her best time. Stellar's gonna be taking a sweet time going up the vertical tube section. Not the vertical tube section, that's final chase. This is just the vertical section. The vertical rail section, I guess we could call it. You gotta be careful if you're jumping off any of these rails. You're gonna want to like neutral stick, because otherwise you might fly off sideways just because the camera's really funky. And he closes it out. No issues. Taking it pretty conservatively, but the stage is extremely hard to do fast. It's really input heavy, and there are lots of advanced tricks that are hard to really get a grasp on. But he's closing this out a lot faster than some other runners have been doing their skipless. All things considered, not bad so far. The only real issues were at the beginning. And as long as he doesn't die from here on out, I'd say this is a pretty good run. Making the distance, going to be taking these top rails for safety. Gives you a much better camera to try to hit that last rail there. Sneaking under the last little artificial chaos as he goes into the final section. Let's pray he doesn't clip out. He's not going fast enough to clip out. The only way to clip out, I'm pretty sure you'd have to be spin dashing. Finishes with a 326. 326, yep. Not bad. He handled the ending really well. And yeah, now he's going into his final boss. Let's see if he can handle it a little bit better than how Jazz handled hers. To be honest, Jazz had a pretty rough time. So maybe Stellar can get the sick one-up right here. Can we see a 16? Ooh, okay, gets the hit. It was a little slow, but he gets it. And he has the rhythm. Almost. Just a little slow. Okay. Really showing off right there. He gets a 20. Good stuff. I like that ending. Jazz with the win, but Stellar playing extremely strong in the end. They both had like their little rough patches during the run, but I think all things considered, this is a pretty good run for Stellar. And it was a pretty good run for Jazz too.
Awesome job, Tails.
Neither were PBs, I don't think, which I'm a little bit surprised by, because they're extremely, like, they've been improving a lot lately, and they've been stepping up even in like the past couple days. But really good work. If he hadn't died at the end of Metal Harbor twice. Yeah, that's true. He was really close to his PB, and he died at the end of Metal Harbor twice. He lost, like, about a minute to that total. That's pretty intense. But he hit it. Okay, so we have... Let's see. I think we have 2 more races to go. 2 more races to go tonight. We have one at 8:30 p.m., so that'll be in 15 minutes. This is going to finish the last of this whole triangle with Koinu, Jazz, and Stellar. Jazz is done with her 2 games, and the final race for them 3 is going to be between Koinu and Stellar, again in 15 minutes. And then during DGen hours, real DGen hours, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we got Non-Igloo versus Ford 373. I don't know what channels these are going to be on. It looks like maybe Speed Gaming 3 for... Looks like it's going to be Speed Gaming 3 for the next race in 15 minutes. And the race at 11:30 Eastern is going to be on Speed Gaming 4. So, with that in mind, congrats again to Jazz. Good job to both the runners. Pretty strong runs from both of them. You can follow Jazz at jazzspeedruns. You can follow... yeah, I was looking on the schedule. It's the colors should be Speed Gaming. Oh wait, yeah, it's Speed Gaming 3. It's the yellow. Speed Gaming 3 should be the next race, and then the one at 11:30 is the blue one, which should be Speed Gaming 4. So yeah, you can follow Jazz at Jazz Speedruns. You can follow Stellar at stllr. You've seen both of them in the chat, so if you want to click on them, give them that little heart. I'm IDE121, as spelled in the commentary thing. And anyways, I'm gonna head out. So make sure to tune into, I guess, Speed Gaming 3. Make sure to tune into that. 15 minutes. We're gonna be having a pretty good race. Catch you later.